Rambam. We are in the laws of the Paschal lamb sacrifice. That's brought Passover. We are in chapter 9. Anyone who partakes of a Paschal sacrifice may partake of it only in one company. So the Paschal lamb sacrifice that's brought on the eve of Passover, right, and eaten on the night of Passover, which, by the way, what do we eat today in its stead? That's on the Seder plate. That's on the Seder plate, right? But we eat something. Anybody? What do we eat? Afikomen. The afikomen that we eat at the end of the meal, right, is the Paschal lamb in the place of the Paschal lamb offering. It's in its place. Right? Just to give you a little context. Okay. So you need to eat it in a group. That's the way the mitzvah is. So one lamb would feed a group of people, right? Each lamb. It may not, and you can only be in one group. You have to be part of a certain group, right? In other words, you were included in one group. It may not be removed from the company to partake of it. If one removes an olive-sized portion of meat from the Paschal sacrifice, from one company to another company, on the night of the 15th, he's liable for lashes. It says, do not remove the meat from the house to the outside, right? In other words, this lamb is being eaten, let's say we're a group together. It needs to be eaten here. You can't take some of it, eat it elsewhere. That's what the verse says, right? Got it? Yes. Uses the form of haitzah, which is in regard to the Shabbos. Therefore, it's necessary that one remove the article from its initial place and place it down. So since it's using the term about movement that we do for Shabbos, so when are you liable for, you will get lashes for this because you're violating a prohibition of the Torah. If you picked it up from here and you placed it somewhere else. If you didn't place it somewhere else, then that's not called that active movement, right? Just like on Shabbos, when are you liable for, if you went from the private to the public domain, is if you picked it up in the private and placed it down in the public. That would be a biblical prohibition. If you carried it the whole time in the public and didn't put it down, then that would not be a biblical prohibition. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So the same idea is over here with the meat, because the term is used the same term that we use for Shabbos. So for the meat, if you took it out from this room, let's say, and you brought it into another gathering of people that were eating there, right? You took it to another place, or not even out, even if you just took it out of this gathering, right? And you placed it elsewhere, then you would be liable for lashes. Others, if you didn't do it that way, you're not allowed to do it, but you wouldn't be liable for lashes, right? Is that clear? Okay. With regard to Paschal sacrifice, one is not liable for removing meat from the company after it's already been removed once. Instead, since it has been removed from the first person, it is disqualified. So if it was already removed and now you removed it to another place, you wouldn't be liable because it was already once removed. From the doorframe of the house inward is considered as part of the house. From the doorframe outward is considered outside of the house. The doorframe, the width of the entrance is considered as outside, and the windows, the width of the walls are considered the inside. The roofs and the lofts are not considered as part of the house. That's already outside of the house. Okay. When the meat of the Paschal sacrifice has been removed from its company, whether intentionally or inadvertently, it becomes forbidden to be eaten. Once removed, you can't eat it anymore. Right. It is comparable to meat of sacrifices of the most sacred order that were taken outside of the temple courtyard, or sacrifices of a lesser degree of sanctity that were taken outside the walls of Jerusalem. In which instance, everything is considered like an animal that is treif. It's like a non-kosher animal anymore, right? Just because you moved it out of its place. One is liable for lashes for partaking of it, as stated in the Hills Ma'aseh Karbanos. So for that too, now let's say someone else moved it and took it out from this room that we were together, right? We were a chabura, as it's called, right? Like from the word chevra, right? Group of friends, right? So we were now, and someone else took it out from here and put it elsewhere, took it out of this building and brought it to another place. And a second person ate it there, right? Because now with that meat is like treif, right? Another person ate it. That person will also be liable for lashes. By the way, when are you liable for lashes? No, it's this biblical law. Biblical law. But when are you liable? When you were warned by two witnesses, don't do this, don't remove it from here. You'll be liable for lashes if you do that. Two witnesses warned you, and you went ahead and did it anyways, right? But in the manner that we said, you picked it up from here and you brought it to outside from here and you placed it down over there. When would the person be liable for lashes if they ate it? If they were warned, this is treif, this was meat that was taken from elsewhere, you're not allowed to eat it, and you were warned and you ate it anyways.
Has to be warned twice.
You have to be warned before the act and then like in the midst of, ready for the act. Yeah, so it's very unlikely those circumstances. But so when we're speaking about the law is not concerned with that. The law is concerned what's the parameter of the law and when would you be liable, not liable. If you didn't get warned, are you allowed to eat it? No, you're just not liable for the lashes. But you did transgress a negative commandment, whether willfully or inadvertently, right? If you did it.
Would you still have to offer sacrifice? Would you still have to offer sacrifice?
If it was inadvertently, then you seemingly would have to bring a sacrifice. Inadvertent. If it's willful, sacrifice doesn't help. Sacrifice only is atonement for someone who did something accidentally. Okay? Okay. When part of the limb of the sacrificial animal is removed, right? A limb of the sacrificial animal is removed from its designated area. One should cut through the meat, descending until it reaches the bone, and then scrape off the meat. Whatever. One second. So what's he saying here? So a portion remained in the designated area. A limb of the animal was taken out. Then you should cut through the meat, descending until it reaches the bone, and then scrape off the meat. Whatever is within the designated area should be eaten. Whatever is outside should be burnt. When he reaches the bone, he should cut off the bone with a butcher's knife if other sacrifices are involved. So that meat needs to be burnt that was taken out. If it is a paschal sacrifice, in which instance it is forbidden to break its bone, one should scrape off the meat until the joint. 1 second. And I'm just checking what's happening with the bottom. Are you here? Yeah. I mean, most left, but there's a few. So I'm going to finish in a few minutes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, bye. Okay. So you're not allowed to break the bone of the Paschal lamb offering, so you got to be careful when you scrape off the meat until the joint, separate the limb from the portion, and remove from the joint and cast it outside. Okay, so it needs to be burnt. When two companies are partaking of their Paschal sacrifice in one house. Now you could have in one house two different companies, two different chevra, right? Chaburas you could have. That's okay. You have a big house, right? Huh? Two different groups, right? So now, well, how's that work? The boundaries between them, right? Each company must delineate its borders with a partition. From the words, it says, from the meat outside. The oral tradition taught that the place outside, the place where it is being eaten, must be designated because it says from the meat. In other words, wherever the meat is, right? Outside of that means outside doesn't mean our sages are taking that doesn't mean literally outside. It means outside of that area, designated. So therefore, you can have more than one group. You have a big family and you're celebrating Pesach together, right? And one lamb isn't enough for one family because everybody has to have a kazayas, has to have like 3 ounces at least. So you might not have enough from one lamb. So you might have 2 lambs, but each one is designated for its group. And you have to designate the area. What's out of it? One company must turn their faces to one side and they eat it, and the other must turn their faces to the other side and eat it so they do not appear as intermingling. Psh.
That means they can't talk together, two groups.
We're only talking about now when you're doing this mitzvah.
Only for that.
For that part of the mitzvah, you have to do it in your group. The rest of the Seder, do you have to do it that way? No. Talking about for that part, the mitzvah is done with your group. Right? Telling over the Haggadah is a different mitzvah. There it doesn't say you only do it with your group. Right? Now, the question why is a crooked letter. Why? Because the Torah says, because the verse is saying it. Why is the verse saying it? Well, that's God talking. God doesn't need a reason why. Sometimes, and whatever reason that we give is immaterial to the parameter of the law. We're only learning the parameter of the law. We're not understanding the deeper significance of the law. So that's immaterial to the parameter of the law. Very important. Okay? Why can't I eat it with someone else? Why are you taking it? Because that's what the Torah says. Right? That's what God said. Why say it? For this, over here, it's immaterial. When we learn Chassidus will explain deeper mystical understanding. There'll be other commentaries that will also explain, on simple level, homiletic, hinted meanings, esoteric meanings, right? But that's not the function over here and what we're learning, right? It's important that we always remember that. Okay? Okay. Number 4. If the water with which they would mix their wines was in the center of the house between the two companies with the attendant, when the attendant rises to pour water, he should shut his mouth closed and then turn his face away from his company, keeping it closed until he returns to them. Only afterwards may he swallow that which is in his mouth, for it's forbidden to partake of the Paschal sacrifice in two companies. Wow. So look, you have a servant. He's a Jewish servant, right? And he needs to serve the wine now after that, right? So he's eating it in his mouth. He's going to the other company because that's where the water to dilute the wine is that he's bringing back, right? It's in the other company. Don't eat it while you're there. Keep it in your mouth, right? Take what the water that you need from there to bring it back to the company that you're a part of. Because remember, he's a servant in the household, but he's Jewish, and he's got to do the mitzvah. So he's doing the mitzvah, but he's also got to serve, right? So while he's got it in his mouth, don't eat it while you're there. Hold it in your mouth, take the water, bring it back to your company, and then continue to eat. Folks, Jewish people, we're crazy. We're crazy. Thank God we're crazy. It's the only way to be. But what does that show you? Look at the mindfulness, right, that you need to have in doing a mitzvah. You're a servant, so that means you're obviously not a wealthy guy, right? It probably means you're not also so learned. Yeah, probably not so learned if you're a servant. You're not a scholar. Probably. I mean, it's possible it could be, but most likely not, right? And yet, how you have to be mindful of doing a mitzvah, right? In the midst of your duties. A bride is permitted to turn her face away from the company and partake of the Paschal sacrifice because she is embarrassed to eat in their presence. Wow, that's interesting. She's a bride. She's got to do a mitzvah too, right? I don't know what it means, a bride, though.
Why was she getting married about?
She just got married. No, she didn't get married. She got married 2 days ago, and she's doing Sheva brachas, right? So you need to do it with your company, but she's, I don't know what this means. I don't understand it, to be quite frank. Huh?
But she's embarrassed to eat in their presence. Why?
Right, because she's a newly, because the way I understand it, a bride now became part of her husband's, she's in her husband's family, and she's part of their company. That's, if it's in her own family, she wouldn't be embarrassed. But she's in her husband's Seder, right? Why do you have two Seders, by the way? First night with your parents, the second one with the in-laws, right? Right? That's according to married people who have parents and in-laws, right? Right? So now, so she's by her, that's the way I'm understanding it. I don't see a note here that I know that that's what it means. But so she's by her husband's family, so she's embarrassed. It's not her family. She's not comfortable. She just got married. Yeah, she's not comfortable. So she can turn away and eat because she's eating. She's the bride. Who are they going to look at? Right? They're looking at the new member of the family, the bride. She's embarrassed. She could turn away. Wow. What a sensitivity. Huh? Wow, wow, wow. Okay, folks, we're going to stop over here. This is, wow, what a day of learning today. My gosh, I don't know how anybody exists outside of what we just did. After what we just learned in our 4 classes, actually, it's like unreal. Unreal. It's enough to, to make you do tshuva.